Context is king. Learning language naturally. Introduction. Imagine you are in a busy market in a new place. You hear new sounds and smell new things. You want to ask for help, say hello, or buy a drink. What is the most important thing you want to do? You want to connect with people. Language is how we connect. It helps us understand others and feel like we belong. It's fun to hear a song in another language and feel its meaning. It's great to watch a movie from another country and feel the story without reading words on the screen. We all want to talk to people, understand them, and feel part of things. This makes learning a new language exciting, but sometimes learning can be hard. We feel stuck. We forget words we need. We can't make simple sentences. For a long time, people learned languages by memorizing words and rules. They used flashcards and books with charts. This is like learning to swim by reading a book. You know about swimming, but you don't know how to do it until you get in the water. This old way often doesn't work. Words and rules are taught without showing how they are used in real life. Words are learned alone, not in real moments. Our brains don't remember random facts well. Without a situation, words are forgotten easily. This makes us afraid to speak. We worry about making mistakes because we haven't practiced in a real way. It's like having puzzle pieces but no picture to show how they fit. This book shows a different way. It's a way that feels natural and works better. It's called learning language with real situations. What does this mean? It means learning new words and rules by seeing and using them in real moments. You learn from stories, from talking, and from life. You don't just look at lists. This is how babies learn their first language. They didn't use books. They learned words like mama and milk by hearing them when those things were there. When you hear a word in a story or a talk, your brain makes links. You understand when and how to use the word. This helps you remember it. Seeing language used in real life also makes you feel sure of yourself. You start to see how sentences work and how people really talk. This gives you the courage to speak, even if you make small mistakes. The idea the situation is most important is true here. The situation tells you what a word means and how to use it. It's the difference between knowing a word exists and really understanding it. Instead of memorizing apple, you learn it when someone gives you an apple. Instead of memorizing a past tense rule, you learn it by hearing a story about what happened yesterday. In this book, we will learn more about learning language with real situations. You will find easy tips and see real examples. These will change how you think about learning a language. We will see how our brains learn from situations. We will learn how to find fun things to learn from. We will learn words and rules without feeling like we are studying. We will also learn how to feel good about speaking and have real talks. Our main goal is to help you stop memorizing and start understanding and speaking well. By the end of this book, you will know how to learn any language in a way that works best, is more fun, and helps you remember it. Are you ready to learn language in a natural way? Let's start this fun trip. 1. Learning vocabulary with real-life examples. Words are like little seeds. If you just hold a seed in your hand, it's hard to know what kind of plant it will become. Will it be a tall tree? A small flower? A tasty vegetable? You don't really know until you plant it and see it grow. Words are a lot like that. When you see a word all by itself, like on a list, it's like holding that seed. It has potential, sure, but its true meaning and purpose aren't totally clear. This is where learning words in real life shines, especially when we talk about learning new words. The idea is that learning words and grammar rules is most effective when you see and use them in real situations. Think about it. Instead of just studying lists of words, you learn them from stories, conversations, or everyday life. When you learn a word this way, it's much easier to understand, remember, and use it correctly because the situation, Itself gives you clues. It feels natural, like how you learned your first language. Let's dive into why learning words with real-life examples is so powerful. It's not just a nice idea, it's how our brains are built to learn. Why real-life examples work. Imagine you're learning English and you see the word run. On a card, it might say, run to move rapidly on foot. That's a meaning, and it's correct. But what does it really mean? Now, imagine you're watching a movie. A character is late for a train and you hear, oh no, I have to run to catch it. Later, the same character is feeling happy and energetic and says, I love to run in the park on a sunny morning. Then, maybe a car breaks down and someone says, the engine is running too hot. And finally, you might see a sign that says, this store is running a special sale this week. See how the same word, run, is used in very different ways. In the first case, it means moving fast because you're in a hurry. In the second, it means jogging or exercising for fun. In the third, it means working or operating for an engine. In the fourth, it means managing or having a sale. A card with just one meaning can't possibly capture all these different shades of meaning. But when you see run in these different sentences, the words around it, the situation in the movie, and even the sound of the actors' voices all help you understand which meaning of run is being used. This is the heart of learning words in context. The surrounding words and the situation act like a spotlight, showing you exactly what the word means right now. This makes that word much more meaningful and memorable than a lonely meaning on a card. It's like seeing the seed planted and starting to sprout. You see its potential in action. This is a key part of learning words in real life. It's about understanding that words don't exist alone. They live and breathe within sentences, conversations, and stories. The context is the environment where the word gets its full life and meaning. Without it, we're just collecting words without truly understanding them. We might know a meaning, but not the meaning for that specific moment. Remembering better through connections. Why do we remember some things so easily, while others slip away like water through our fingers? It's often about connections. Our brains are like giant spider webs, with each piece of information connected to many others. The more connections a piece of information has, the easier it is to find and remember. When you learn a word from a list, it often has only one or two connections, maybe the meaning and the word itself. It's like a single strand in that spiderweb. But when you learn a word in a real-life situation, it gets connected to so much more. Think back to the movie example with run. When you heard I have to run to catch it, that word run is now connected to the feeling of being late, the image of a train station, the character's worried face, the sound of the train whistle, the story happening in the scene. All these things create a rich network of connections around the word run. Your brain doesn't just remember run, it remembers run because I was late for the train in that movie. This whole experience becomes a strong memory anchor. When you need to talk about being late for something, your brain can easily follow that strong connection back to the word run and how it was used. This is why learning words in real life is so effective for memory. It uses the power of association. Our brains are naturally good at remembering things that have emotional weight, are part of a story, or are linked to what we see and hear. Let's try another example. Imagine you are learning Spanish and you see the word caliente. Card might say, caliente hot. But what if you're in Mexico and you order some food and the waiter brings you a steaming plate and says, cuidado está caliente. Be careful, it's hot. Suddenly, caliente is linked to the smell of the delicious food, the sight of steam rising from the plate, the feeling of warmth coming from the dish, the waiter's friendly warning, your own excitement to eat, the whole place, the restaurant. This experience makes caliente much more memorable. You're not just remembering a meaning, you're remembering the experience of the hot food and the warning. When you later want to talk about something being hot, your brain can easily access this vivid memory. It's a much stronger memory than simply memorizing a meaning. This is also why systems that show you words again over time like flashcard apps work well, but they work even better when the words are learned within context. The context provides the initial strong connection, and seeing the word again helps to strengthen it. Without context, the initial connection is weak, and even seeing the word again might struggle to build a truly strong memory. Using words easily. Learning a language isn't just about knowing words, it's about being able to use them to communicate. This is where learning words through real-life examples truly shines. When you encounter words in their natural setting, you don't just learn the word itself, you learn how it works. Think about it. 1. Words that go together. Collocations. Words rarely travel alone. They like to stick with their friends. For example, in English, we say heavy rain, not strong rain or big rain. If you learn rain from a card, you might not know that heavy is the most natural word to use with it. But if you read a newspaper article describing a storm, you might see the phrase heavy rain many times. You automatically learn that heavy and rain are a common pair. This is crucial for sounding natural. Similarly, if you learn the Spanish word decir, to say, you might also see it used in phrases like decir la verdad, to tell the truth, or decir adios, to say goodbye. You learn not just the verb, but the common expressions it fits into. This is a core element of learning words in real life. Understanding how words work together. 2. Right way to say things. Formal vs. informal. Is it okay to use a certain word in a job interview? What about with your best friend? Words have different levels of politeness. A card usually doesn't tell you this. For example, in English, you might learn the word depart. It's a perfectly good word, but it sounds quite formal. You're more likely to see it on a train schedule. Train departs at 3 p.m. or hear it in a formal announcement. In everyday conversation with friends, you probably say leave or go. If you learn depart by reading formal announcements or watching news reports, you understand its formal feel. If you learn it from a casual chat with a friend, you might be confused why they don't use it. Context helps you place the word on the politeness scale. 3. Cultural meanings. Language is deeply tied to culture. Sometimes, a word or phrase carries a meaning that's hard to translate directly because it's rooted in a specific cultural understanding. Consider the Japanese word wabi-sabi. It's often translated as imperfect beauty or the beauty of imperfection, but that doesn't fully capture it. To truly understand wabi-sabi, you need to see it in context, in descriptions of old tea houses, in the appreciation of a cracked ceramic bowl, in the idea of finding beauty in things that are natural, temporary, and flawed. Learning this word from a meaning alone would miss its deep cultural and aesthetic meaning. Experiencing it through Japanese art, stories, or conversations about beauty brings it to life. This is learning words in real life at its finest, understanding the cultural heart of a word. When you learn words through real-life examples, you're not just collecting isolated items. You're building a toolkit of language that is ready to be used. You learn the word, its friends, words that go together, its personality, how polite it is, and its background, cultural meanings. This makes you a much more confident and effective communicator. You're not just saying words. You're using language naturally, just like someone who grew up speaking it. Examples of learning in real life. So, how can you actively bring more real-life examples into your language learning? The good news is, the world is full of them. You just need to know where to look and how to engage. Watching movies and TV shows. This is a fantastic way to learn words. With subtitles, start by watching with subtitles in the language you are learning. This is key. If you use subtitles in your own language, you'll probably just read them and not pay attention to the spoken words. When you see subtitles in the language you're learning, you can link the sounds you hear to the words you see. If you hear a word you don't know, you can pause, look it up, and see how it's used in that specific sentence. Without subtitles for more advanced learners, once you're more comfortable, try watching without subtitles. This forces you to rely solely on listening. You might not catch every single word, but you'll get the main idea and notice words and phrases that are used often. This is a powerful way to train your ear and build vocabulary naturally. Reading books, articles, and social media. The written word is a treasure trove. Books. Start with books that match your level. Children's books are great for beginners because they use simpler language. As you get better, move on to books for young people, then adult books. Don't be afraid to read something you enjoy. When you come across an unknown word, try to guess its meaning from the surrounding sentences first. If you still can't figure it out, then look it up. Articles and blogs. Reading news articles, blog posts, or online magazines on topics you find interesting is incredibly effective. You'll encounter words related to current events, hobbies, or professional fields. Social media. Following people or organizations in the language you are learning on platforms like Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook can expose you to everyday language, slang, and common expressions. Be aware that social media language can be very informal, so remember the point about politeness. Listening to music and podcasts. These are excellent for both words and pronunciation. Music. Song lyrics often use poetic or special language. Look up the lyrics online and read along as you listen. You'll find yourself picking up new words and phrases, and the melody can make them very catchy and memorable. Podcasts. There are podcasts made specifically for language learners, often explaining words and grammar. But even podcasts for native speakers on topics you love can be incredibly beneficial. Like movies, they provide context and repetition. If you hear a word multiple times across different episodes or in different podcasts, you know it's important and commonly used. Talking with native speakers. This is perhaps the most direct way to experience learning words in real life. Language exchange partners. Find someone who wants to learn your language in exchange for teaching you theirs. Apps and websites can connect you. Tutors. A good tutor can guide you through conversations, explain new words, and correct your usage. Immersion. If you have the opportunity to travel or live in a place where the language is spoken, immerse yourself. Don't be afraid to try speaking, even if you make mistakes. Every interaction is a learning opportunity. When someone uses a word you don't know, ask them, "What does that mean?" Or can you use that in another sentence? Observing signs, menus, and everyday objects. Don't underestimate the language around you in daily life. Street signs, signs for shops, directions, warnings. They all use practical words. Menus. Ordering food is a great way to learn words about food, cooking, and polite phrases. Product labels. Reading the labels on food, toiletries, or other products can expose you to descriptive words. Games. Even playing video games in the language you are learning can be a fun way to learn words related to actions, objects, and instructions. The key is to be an active learner. Don't just passively consume. When you encounter something new, a word, a phrase, try to understand it. Connect it to what you already know. Make it a part of your experience. This active engagement is what makes learning words in real life so effective. Deeper understanding. Let's dig a little deeper into the how and why behind these ideas. How does encountering a new word in a sentence or a conversation provide more useful information to a learner than seeing it on a card with a single meaning? Encountering a word in a sentence or conversation is like getting a complete picture, whereas a card with a single meaning is like getting just a tiny piece of that picture. When you see a word in context, you get several types of information all at once, which a single meaning can't provide. 1. Specific meaning. As we discussed with run, words have multiple meanings. The sentence tells you which meaning is relevant. For example, if you see he has a fast car, you know car means a vehicle. If you see the play was a hit, you know hit means successful, not a physical blow. The surrounding words clarify the intended meaning. 2. Word type grammar. The sentence shows you what kind of word it is. Is it a noun? An adjective? Knowing this is fundamental to using the word correctly. If you see the quick fox jumped, you see quick describes the fox adjective. If you see he quickened his pace, you see quickened is an action verb. A card might tell you quick fast, but not necessarily its grammatical role in different situations. 3. Words that go together collocations. A sentence reveals which words typically appear together. If you see make a decision, you learn that make is the verb used with decision, not do or take. This is incredibly useful for natural speech. A card might just give you decision a choice. 4. Politeness and tone. The overall sentence and the situation, for example, a formal speech vs a casual chat, tell you if the word is formal, informal, polite, or even slang. If you see please kindly submit your application, you understand kindly is a polite, but somewhat formal addition. This is information you can't get from a simple meaning. 5. Why the speaker chose that word. This refers to the intended effect or purpose of the word or phrase in communication. Why did the speaker choose that word? Is it to persuade, inform, express emotion, or make a joke? Context helps you understand the speaker's intention. A card's single meaning is a starting point, but it's like a map without landmarks. Context provides the landmarks, the roads, and the destination, giving you a much richer and more practical understanding of the word. It helps you not just know the word, but understand its role and purpose in real communication. What specific reasons make vocabulary learned through context more memorable and easier to use compared to vocabulary learned through lists? Our brains are not designed to be filing cabinets for isolated facts. They are designed to process experiences, build connections, and make sense of the world through relationships. This is where cognitive and psychological principles come into play. 1. Deeper processing. When you learn a word in context, you engage in deeper processing. You're not just repeating a sound or a symbol, you're understanding meaning, connecting it to a story, an image, or an emotion. This deeper engagement creates more links in your brain associated with the word. The more deeply you process information, the better you remember it. Learning from a list is often shallow processing, just recognizing the word and its meaning. 2. Emotional connection. Experiences that have an emotional component are much more memorable. When you learn a word while feeling excited, curious, amused, or even slightly confused, and then working to understand it, that emotional tag gets attached to the word. This emotional connection acts as a powerful cue for remembering. Cards rarely evoke strong emotions. 3. Images and sensory input. Context often involves sensory details. What you see, hear, smell, or even taste. Our brains are highly visual and sensory. A word linked to a vivid image or sensory experience is much easier to recall than an abstract meaning. For example, learning the word bitter while tasting something truly bitter is far more memorable than memorizing bitter sharp. unpleasant taste. 4. Stories. Humans are natural storytellers. We remember information best when it's part of a narrative. When you learn a word within a story, a movie scene, or a conversation, it becomes part of a larger story. Your brain organizes this information narratively, making it more coherent and easier to retrieve. Isolated words on a list lack this story structure. 5. Existing knowledge. This idea suggests that we understand and remember new information by fitting it into our existing mental frameworks or schemas. When you learn a word in context, you activate a relevant framework, for example, a travel framework, a food framework, a work framework. The new word is then integrated into this existing structure, making it more meaningful and easier to remember than an isolated piece of data that doesn't fit anywhere. 6. Less mental effort later. While it might seem like more work at first, learning in context can actually reduce the mental effort in the long run. Instead of trying to memorize thousands of isolated facts, you're building a network of connected knowledge. When you retrieve one piece of information like the situation, the related words become more accessible. In essence, learning words through context uses the brain's natural strengths, its ability to connect information, its sensitivity to emotion and sensory input, its preference for stories, and its tendency to organize knowledge into coherent frameworks. Words learned this way aren't just stored, they're integrated into your understanding of the world, making them readily available for active use. Final thought: so, the next time you're learning new words, remember the seed analogy. Don't just hold the seed in your hand. Let it grow in the rich soil of real-life situations. By actively seeking out and engaging with words in their natural setting, through conversations, stories, movies, and everyday observations, you're not just memorizing. You're building a richer, more connected understanding of words. This approach moves beyond simply knowing what a word means to understanding how it works, how it feels, and how it connects to other words and ideas. This is the foundation of truly confident and effective communication, paving the way for a deeper, more enjoyable engagement with any language you choose to learn. This is the power of learning words in real life. 2. Grammar in everyday context. Learning a new language can feel like a big puzzle. You have many word pieces, but how do you put them together to make a clear picture? That's where grammar helps. Some people think grammar is just a lot of hard rules. But grammar is actually our friend. It helps us understand things. It turns mixed-up words into a clear message. Imagine knowing all the English words: dog, chase, cat, yesterday. You could say them all, but it wouldn't make much sense. Dog chased cat yesterday. That sounds funny, right? But add a little grammar and it becomes clear. The dog chased the cat yesterday. Now we know who chased the dog, who was chased the cat, and when it happened yesterday. Grammar is like invisible glue that holds sentences together. It helps us share our thoughts and ideas. Without it, talking would be very hard, even if we knew many words. We learn grammar without even trying, just by living and listening. When we are babies, we hear the language around us. We hear people talk, watch TV, and read books. Our brains start to learn how sentences are built. In English, we usually say who is doing something first, then the action, then who or what the action is done to. This is called subject-verb-object. Mom made cookies follows this order. We also learn about time. I ate breakfast means it happened before now. I am eating breakfast means it's happening now. I will eat breakfast means it will happen later. These aren't just rules, they help us talk about time. These language patterns are everywhere. They are in emails, news headlines, street signs, and everyday talks. When you hear someone tell a story, you hear grammar working. When you read a recipe, you see how grammar gives instructions. When you look at social media, you see how people use grammar to express themselves. The more you see and hear language used in real life, the more these patterns feel normal. This is learning language by seeing and hearing it used in real situations. Grammar is interesting because the words around it help us understand. Sometimes, the same word can mean different things. Take the word run. We often think of it as an action, like I run every morning. But what about that was a good run? Here, run is not an action. It's a thing, like a period of running. Or she has a run in her stocking. Here, run means a tear. The words near run tell us what it means. This is very helpful for language learners. Instead of just memorizing that run can be an action or a thing, you learn by seeing it used in different ways. You might read a story where a character says, "I love my morning run." Then later, you read, "The race was a difficult run." Your brain learns the different uses because the situations are different. This is better than just looking up run in a dictionary and seeing a list of meanings. The meaning becomes clear when you see it used. It's easier to learn language patterns than strict rules. Think about how children learn their first language. They don't use grammar books. They listen, copy, and learn how the language works. They might make mistakes, like saying goed instead of went, but they learn from hearing the correct way. They learn patterns. As language learners, we can do the same. Instead of focusing on a rule like the past of go is gone, we can learn by hearing sentences like, "I have gone to the store," or "He had gone before I arrived." We notice how gone is used with have or had to talk about things that have finished or happened before. Another past event. Let me tell you a story. When I was learning Spanish, I found it hard to know when to use saber and conocer. Both seemed to mean to know. The books gave me rules. Use saber for facts and conocer for people and places. But these rules felt unclear. I tried to memorize them, but I got confused in conversations. One day, I was in a cafe in Spain with my friend Alina. I wanted to ask her if she knew a certain street. I thought hard about the rule. Saber or conocer? I didn't know. Elena saw I was confused. She smiled and asked, do you know how to get to Cal Sol? Then she said, if you want to ask if I know the street name itself, you would ask, "Conoces Cal Sol?" But she pointed to a map and said, and if you want to ask if I know the information about how to get there, you might ask, "Sabes como llegar a Cal Sol?" Suddenly, I understood. It wasn't just about knowing a fact or a person. It was about the type of knowing. Saber was for knowing information, skills, or facts. Conocer was for being familiar with something or someone. Elena didn't give me a long grammar lesson. She used the situation, the map, and my question to show me the difference. I was in a situation where I wanted to find a street. She showed me how to use the words in that real situation. This was a big change for me. I realized the grammar rules I tried to memorize were like looking at a city map without visiting the city. You see the streets, but you don't know how to get around. By experiencing the difference between saber and conocer in that cafe, I wasn't just learning a rule, I was learning a tool for talking. I learned how Spanish speakers naturally say different kinds of knowing. Let's look closer at how a small grammar part can change meaning. Think about small English words like on, in, and at. These words tell us where things are or when things happen. If I say, my keys are on the table, you see them on top of it. If I say, my keys are in the drawer, you see them inside. If I say, my keys are at the house, it means they are somewhere near the house. The small word changes where things are. Now think about time. The meeting is on Monday. This means it's during that day. The meeting is in the afternoon. This tells us a part of the day. The meeting is at 3 p.m. This gives a very exact time. The word on, in, or it changes when the event will happen. If a friend texts, "Let's meet on Friday," you know it's sometime that day. If they say, "Let's meet at 7 p.m., you know the exact time. If they say, "Let's meet in the evening," you have a general idea. The grammar of the small word helps us know when things will happen. These small words are powerful tools that show us clear pictures of time and place. This shows that learning grammar is less about memorizing rules and more about seeing natural language patterns. People who speak a language well often know what sounds right. They might not be able to explain why a sentence is correct, but they feel it because they have heard it many times. For example, a native English speaker would know that "I am wanting a new car" sounds strange. They have learned that words like want are usually not used in this way. They just know "I want a new car" is the natural way to say it. As language learners, we can gain this same sense by using language in real situations. Through stories, talks, movies, and real life, we start to absorb these patterns. We notice how words are used together, how sentences are built, and how different grammar forms mean different things. This is learning grammar not from rules, but from watching and using language where it is actually used. So, why is understanding how grammar works in real life easier than just memorizing a rule? It's like learning to ride a bike. You can read about it, but until you actually ride, the knowledge is not real. The act of balancing and pedaling is part of learning. When you see grammar in a real situation, your brain connects it to the meaning and the situation. You see why someone used a certain tense or word. This makes it easier to remember. Remember my saber and connoisseur example? The rule was unclear. Fact vs. person place. But the situation, wanting to find a street in Seville, made the difference clear. I wasn't just memorizing a rule, I was learning how to ask for directions. The job of saber to know information and connoisseur to be familiar with was shown by the real need to find my way around. This makes the knowledge stay with you. When you later need to ask if someone knows a person, you might remember Alina's explanation and the cafe, helping you choose connoisseur. You remember what the word is for, not just its meaning. This practical understanding also helps us use grammar correctly. When we learn grammar through context, we learn how it helps us communicate. We learn that using the past tense helps us tell a story. We learn that asking a question in a certain way helps us get information. We learn that using polite words makes requests sound better. This focus on what grammar does makes learning feel important and not like a chore. It helps us talk better because we understand why we use certain sentences. By seeing grammar as an important part of how we make meaning every day, we can start to see its natural flow. It's not a set of hard rules, but a system that allows us to connect with others. This helps us notice and learn these patterns. Instead of just memorizing, we become active watchers of language in use. We pay attention to how sentences are built, how words work together, and how meaning is made in every conversation and interaction. This is the next step to truly knowing how to use language, moving from knowing the rules to naturally knowing how to use them, like someone who grew up speaking the language. 3. Why context beats memorization. Learning a new language can feel like trying to build a house with only a hammer. You have a tool, but knowing how to use it and where to put nails are different skills. Many people start by memorizing word lists and grammar rules. They try hard to remember these things. But when they try to speak, the words don't come out right. The sentences sound strange and they get stuck. It's like having all the car parts but not knowing how to put them together to make the car move. This is where learning language in context is very helpful. It's not just knowing what a word means. It's understanding how it fits with other words, why it's used in a certain way, and when it's the right word to use. This way of learning is like how we learned our first language, by seeing and hearing it used in real life. Let me tell you about my friend Maria. Maria wanted to learn Japanese. She worked very hard. Every evening, after her job, she studied her books and cards. She learned many words: Nico for cat, Inu for dog, Tabaru for eat, Namu for drink. She also learned simple grammar rules. She could perfectly say verbs in the past tense. She was happy with how much vocabulary she knew. Then she went to a Japanese restaurant. She wanted to order food. She knew the word for chicken and rice. She also knew the word for eat. So she told the waiter, "Watashi wa chicken gohan o tabaru." I chicken rice eat. The waiter looked a bit confused. He smiled nicely, but he didn't really understand her. He eventually brought her chicken and rice, but it wasn't as smooth as Maria hoped. She felt a little sad. She knew the words, but they didn't work like she thought they would. She had the ingredients, but not the recipe for ordering. A few months later, Maria tried a different way. She started watching Japanese TV shows, listening to Japanese music, and talking with people online who were learning English. She stopped trying to memorize lists. Instead, she paid attention to how people talked. She noticed that when people ordered food, they used polite phrases she hadn't seen on her cards. She saw that how you say "I eat chicken rice" changes depending on who you talk to and how hungry you are. She heard phrases like "chicken rice, please," or "could I have chicken rice?" Ways of saying it that sounded natural and polite. A big change happened when she watched a show where a shy character wanted to try a new food. The character didn't just say, "I want to eat this." They paused and said something like, "Ono kor o choto tabi mitai desu." This I want to try eating a little. Maria understood that the situation, the character's shyness wanting to try just a little, changed the words they used. It wasn't just about want to eat. It was about the feeling and the situation. This is why context is better than memorizing. When you learn a word or grammar rule by itself, you get a simple meaning. It's like looking at one picture. But when you learn it in context, you see the whole story. Let's look at the English word run. If you just learn it from a book, you know it means to move fast with your legs. But what happens when you see it in different situations? The train is running late. Here, running doesn't mean the train is jogging. It means it's moving, but slower than it should be. It's delayed. She runs a small business. This runs isn't about her legs. It means she manages or leads the business. It's about being in charge. He has a runny nose. The runny here means liquid is coming from his nose. It's about something dripping. We need to run some errands. This means to go out and do small tasks, like going to the post office or the bank. Each use of run is different, but they all relate to moving or working. If you only memorized the basic meaning of run, you wouldn't be ready for these different uses. You might be confused or use the word wrong, but seeing these phrases in stories, talks, or instructions helps you understand the small changes in meaning. You start to build a map of the word in your mind, with different paths for different situations. This deeper understanding makes the word more useful and easier to remember. This leads to the second important point: better memory. Our brains don't store information like a computer. Our memories are like a big, connected web. New information sticks best when it can be linked to something we already know, something we've experienced, or something that made us feel something. Think about when you learned a new word or phrase because it was linked to a strong feeling. Maybe you learned "I'm so sorry" in a new language after accidentally bumping into someone. Feeling embarrassed, wanting to apologize, seeing the other person's face. All these things create strong memory links. When you need to apologize again later, your brain doesn't just look for the words "I'm so sorry." It remembers the feeling of needing to apologize, and that feeling helps you find the right words. Memorizing a list of words like sorry, apologize, regret is just using your mind. There's no story, no feeling, no real-life connection. It's like trying to remember a string of random numbers. It's hard because there's nothing to hold on to it. But when you learn Je suis désolé, French for I am sorry, while watching a character in a movie feel really bad about a mistake, the strong feeling of the scene helps that phrase stick in your memory. You remember the character's face, the music, the situation, and all of that becomes part of remembering the phrase. This connection makes it much easier and more reliable to recall. This brings us to how easy it is to use the language. Many learners who only memorize can understand a lot when they read or listen, but they have a very hard time when they try to speak. This is because memorized lists don't teach you how to put words together naturally. You might know the word for want and the word for go, but you might not know the natural way to say I want to go. In English, we add to. In other languages, the order of words might be completely different. Imagine someone who memorized verb changes. They might know that the past tense of to eat in Spanish is comí, I ate, comiste, you ate, comio, she it ate, and so on. They can say these perfectly. But in a real talk, if asked what did you eat yesterday, their mind might freeze. They have to think through all the verb changes, find the right person I, and then say comí. This mental work is slow and difficult. On the other hand, someone learning by hearing dialogues or reading stories would have heard and seen phrases like I comí pa yesterday, I ate pa many times. They have absorbed how words flow naturally. When asked what they ate, their brain doesn't look for a verb change. It brings up a complete, natural-sounding phrase that they've heard many times in a meaningful situation. This allows for much faster, more natural answers, the basis of speaking fluently. They've learned not just the parts, but how to put them together to make communication work. What happens in our minds when we learn in context that doesn't happen as much when we just memorize? When we only memorize, we mostly use our short-term memory, focusing on remembering facts. It's like studying hard for a test. You might remember it right after, but it often fades quickly. Learning in context, however, uses many more parts of our brain. It uses pattern recognition. Our brains are very good at finding patterns and information, and language has many. When you see how words are used the same way in similar situations, you start to learn grammar rules and common phrases without even trying. This is how children learn their first language, by noticing patterns in the words they hear all the time. It also creates associations. Every piece of information learned in context is linked to other information, the situation, the people, the feelings, the sights, even sounds or smells from that moment. These links create many ways to find the information later. Instead of one weak link like a word on a list, you have a strong, thick rope connecting the idea to your memory. Also, learning in context helps us figure things out. When you see a new word or phrase in a situation where you can guess its meaning from the clues around it, you are actively using your brain to make that guess. This active guessing is much more involving and helps memory much more than just reading a definition. You aren't just getting information, you are actively building understanding. This is a much deeper, stronger way of learning that leads to knowledge that lasts. This brings us to the fourth point, wanting to learn and being involved. Let's be honest, looking at a list of words can be very boring. It feels like a chore, something to get done, not something fun. This lack of involvement often leads to feeling tired and giving up. Why would you want to spend hours memorizing words when it feels like so much hard work? Now, imagine learning a language by watching an exciting movie, reading an interesting book, or having a fun talk with a new friend. These activities are naturally fun. Wanting to understand the story, to connect with the characters, or to share your thoughts with your friend gives you a strong, natural reason to learn. You're not studying language, you're using it to do something you really want to do. When Maria started watching shows and talking with her language partner, her learning changed. It wasn't a chore anymore, it was an adventure. She looked forward to her language time because she was truly interested in what she was learning. This greater involvement meant she spent more time with the language, saw words and grammar in many different situations, and therefore, learned better and remembered it longer. This good cycle, fun leading to more practice, leading to better results, leading to more fun, is very powerful. How does feeling or experiencing something when learning in context make it work better than just using your mind to memorize? The emotional and experience parts are what change language learning from a dull school subject into a lively, human activity. When we experience something, especially if it makes us feel strongly, our brains release natural chemicals like dopamine and adrenaline. These chemicals help our memories form better. Think about a time you were very scared or incredibly happy. You probably remember the details of that event very clearly even years later. This is because the strong feeling of the experience made your brain pay extra attention and create a very strong, detailed memory. When you learn a word or phrase in a context that brings out a feeling, like happiness, surprise, frustration, or understanding, that feeling becomes attached to the language. This makes the memory stronger and easier to find. Learning by experience also connects language to real life. Learning the word sad is one thing. Seeing a character cry on screen after losing something important, and hearing them say the word for sad, connects the idea to a real human feeling. You understand why someone would say they are sad, and you can more easily imagine yourself using that word in a similar situation. This understanding from experience is much stronger than just knowing the definition. It builds understanding of others and a deeper connection to the culture and people who speak the language. Memorizing, on the other hand, has little emotion or direct experience, making the memories it creates weaker and more likely to be forgotten. Basically, memorizing words and grammar rules can give you a basic start, but it's like having a toolbox full of tools without knowing how or when to use them. You might have a hammer, a saw, and a screwdriver, but if you don't know which tool to pick for a job, or how to use it right, you won't be able to build much. Truly mastering a language comes from seeing those tools in action, understanding why they are used, and learning to use them well in the real world of talking. It's about understanding the why and how behind every word and every grammar change. This is the power of learning language in context, and it's the key to speaking fluently. It helps us look for and use this rich context in our learning. 4. Connecting language to real usage. Language is alive. We learn how to use things by seeing them used. We learn a hammer by seeing it hit a nail. We learn a spoon by eating soup. We learn a car by driving it. Language is the same. It is not just a list of words or rules on paper. Language is meant to be used. It should be spoken, heard, read, and written in real life. Think about the word run. If you just see the word run alone, what does it mean? It's a verb. It means to move fast with your legs. But that's only a small part. What if you hear someone say, "I need to run some errands"? Now, run doesn't mean moving your legs fast. It means to do or to take care of. Or what if you hear, "The milk has run out"? Here, run out means to be finished or to have no more. Then she decided to run a small business. This means to manage or to operate. And if someone runs a marathon, they are in a long race. See how one word, run, can have many meanings depending on the situation. This is why connecting language to how it's used is so important. When we learn a word or a grammar rule by itself, we only see a small piece. It's like looking at one piece of a puzzle and trying to guess the whole picture. It's confusing and hard to remember, but when we learn language in its setting, when we see or hear run and I need to run some errands, the meaning becomes clear. The other words in the sentence shine a light on what run means in that moment. This helps us understand a single word better, and it helps us understand how language works. It shows us the reason behind the words. This is called learning language by context. It means learning words and grammar by seeing and using them in real life, not just by studying lists. When language is learned in context, its meaning is clear from the situation. This makes learning feel natural and helps people talk better. It helps us understand why someone uses a certain word or phrase. Are they asking for something? Are they happy? Are they telling a story? This why is very powerful. It gives language a purpose, and purpose helps us remember. Our brains are good at remembering things that have meaning and purpose. Think about something important you learned. Was it a random fact from a book? Or was it something that happened to you, something you felt, or something you had to understand to do something? It was likely the second one. Our brains pay attention to things that matter to our lives and experiences. Learning language by using it is like building a colorful map in your mind, not just filling a dictionary. Imagine exploring a new city. If you only have a list of street names, it's hard to find your way. But if you have a map showing streets, shops, parks, and important places, you can truly understand the city. You can find your way. Learning language by context does this for language. Each new word or grammar idea is like finding a new place on your mental map. It's not alone. It's linked to other places you've been, things you've seen, and things you've done. You might learn the word for coffee and connect it to the smell of a coffee shop, the taste of coffee, and a chat with the person who served it. This web of connections makes the word easy to remember and use. It's not just a definition, it's a memory, a feeling, a situation. This is very different from just memorizing word lists. When you memorize a list, each word is like a small, separate island. There's no bridge to anything else. So, when you need a word, you have to search your memory for that island. It's slow and often wrong. You might remember the word, but not how to use it, or you might use it wrongly. But with learning by context, each new language piece is put in its right place on your map. When you want to talk about ordering coffee, your brain can easily find the coffee shop area on your map, and all the related words will be there, ready to use. One of the most exciting parts of learning language by using it is moving from just understanding what you hear or read to actually being able to say and write things yourself. This is the difference between watching a game and playing it. When you only study grammar and word lists, you get good at recognizing language. You can often understand a written sentence. This is called passive understanding. It's like watching a sport and knowing the rules and what players do. But it's not the same as playing the game. Learning language in context helps you cross that gap. When you see how people who speak the language use words and grammar in different situations, you start to notice natural patterns. You learn not just what a word means, but how it's used. You learn which words sound good together, which phrases are common, and how to speak differently depending on who you're talking to. Think about the phrase "I'm starving." If you just learn starving from a list, you might think it only means very, very hungry. But when you hear someone say, "Oh, I'm starving. Let's grab a pizza," you understand it's often used casually, meaning I'm quite hungry. You learn it's a common and natural way to say you're hungry in everyday talk. This is active speaking, being able to speak and write the language yourself. You're not just understanding, you're joining in. This ability to produce language is built on understanding how language is actually used. It's like learning to cook. You can read all the recipes, but until you chop vegetables, mix ingredients, and taste your food, you won't truly know how to cook. You need to do it to try, to make mistakes, and to learn from them. Real usage gives you this chance. So, how can you do this? How can you connect language to real usage, especially if you don't live where the language is spoken? The good news is, you can do more than you think. One simple way is to notice the language around you, even at home. If you watch movies or TV shows in the language you're learning, don't just watch. Try to find words or phrases you've learned. See how they are used in the talking. If you hear something interesting, pause the movie and say it aloud. Try to imagine yourself in that situation. Why did the character say that? What did it help them do? Reading is also powerful. Instead of just reading textbooks, try reading stories, blogs, or news in the language you're learning. When you find a new word or phrase, don't just look up its meaning. Look at the whole sentence. What is the sentence about? What is the writer trying to say? Try to guess the meaning of the new word from the words around it before you check a dictionary. This is a great way to train your brain to understand language in context. If you can talk to people who speak the language, even online, do it. Online language partners can be very helpful. You can have real talks, ask questions, and get feedback. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Every mistake is a chance to learn. The more you try to communicate, the more you'll learn to connect language to real usage. Even simple things like changing the language on your phone or computer can help. You'll start seeing common phrases and words used in daily digital life. You'll learn how to use menus, send messages, and manage apps, all in your new language. This is practical, real-world language use. Think about it. You already know how to use your own language perfectly. You use it for everything. To say what you need, to share your thoughts, to connect with people, to understand the world. The goal of learning language by context is to use that same natural ability. It's about making learning a new language feel as easy and effective as learning your first one. It's about understanding that language is not just something to study, but a tool to use, a skill to practice, and a way to connect with others. The power of connecting language to real usage is that it makes learning meaningful. When you understand the why behind the words, when you see them working, you create strong, lasting memories. You build a mental map that helps you understand a new language. And you move from just recognizing words to actively using them, becoming someone who communicates well. By understanding how language actually works in real life, we can see that the best learning happens not in a classroom, but in the lively, sometimes messy, and always interesting world of talking with people. The next step is to look at the specific kinds of situations that offer the best learning opportunities. Conclusion: you have finished reading about how to learn languages. For a long time, many people tried to learn by memorizing word lists and difficult grammar rules. But then, they found it hard to talk to others. It felt bad to know about a language, but not be able to use it. But as we have seen together, there is a better, easier, and more fun way. This way is like how you learned your first language. The main idea of this book is simple. Context is king. This means that where and how you see or hear a word is very important. When you see a word or a sentence in a story, in a talk, or in a real situation, your brain does not just remember it as a single fact. It connects the word to feelings, pictures, and things that happened. This makes it easier to remember than just reading a definition. Context shows you why a word is used. It shows you when to say something, who to say it to, and the small differences in meaning that a dictionary cannot explain. It is the difference between knowing a word and really understanding it. Think about how you learned your first language. You did not start with a book of rules. You learned by listening, watching, and talking. You learned language from your life around you. Learning with context brings this natural way back for your new language. When language is real and useful, learning is fun, not hard work. This makes you want to learn more. We have seen how reading stories, watching movies, and looking at real texts can be a good way to find new language. We talked about how important it is to talk to people, even if you make mistakes, to practice and get better. We also learned to be like a language detective, watching how people who speak the language use words and rules in different ways and figuring out the rules yourself. Using what you already know to understand new language ideas better is also helpful. And most importantly, we said that you should not just listen or read. You must use the language, try things out, and learn from your mistakes. These are not just ideas. They are real things you can do to make learning language better. All these ways of learning are part of contextual language learning. This is more than just a method, it's a way of thinking. It means understanding that language is always with its surroundings, its purpose, and the people using it. It is the opposite of just memorizing single words or grammar rules that don't mean much alone. Instead, it means learning language is something alive, which is best understood when used in real situations. By using contextual language learning, you choose a path to understand more, speak more easily, and feel more sure when you speak the language. Imagine not just changing words in your head, but thinking directly in the new language. Imagine easily joining conversations, understanding jokes, and saying what you think and feel clearly and with confidence. This can happen with contextual language learning. It's about going beyond just speaking words to really connecting with people and cultures. Your learning journey does not stop here. It is time to go out and use these ideas. Look for context. Use real-life situations where language is used. Remember, context is not just for learning. It is what language is all about. By using it as your guide, you are not just learning a language, you are opening up a new world. Go out, explore, and speak with confidence. The world wants to hear you.